Good day everyone, Complaining Gamer here. Cemu 1.11.3 has just dropped for Patreon members and it has an incredible new feature for power PC users, which is multi-threaded emulation. And oh my, what can I say about this? In my preliminary tests using, of course, Breath of the Wild, it's incredible. It's absolutely incredible the difference it made to my performance. Let's jump over to my desktop and I'll show you how it works. So basically in Cemu, the feature is currently considered experimental and somewhat unstable. Go to CPU and mode, and in here you'll see a few extra options. They are dual core recompiler and triple core recompiler. So basically if your CPU has been underutilized in the past with Cemu, there's pretty much a guarantee it's going to go balls to the wall 100%, and man are you gonna see it. With Breath of the Wild, I just tested the dual core recompiler. I didn't even go to triple core because dual core literally pushed my i5 6400 to 100%, and boy was my system telling me about that. One thing I should say, of course, these CPU mode changes you need to make before you load the game. So let's jump into some gameplay, and it's incredible. Now, I've got a lot to say about this, but I'm going to try and be concise and logical. You are watching my system running at a locked, well, close to locked 60 FPS. In Zelda Breath of the Wild, I have never ever seen this performance on my system before. I'm using the dual core recompiler in the CPU mode option of Cemu 1.11.3. Now, many people are going to ask, is my CPU going to suddenly perform better? Well, that truly depends on the CPU. I know that many AMD FX users have constantly had a bad time. It really depends. If your CPU was underutilized before and it has significantly more cores than were being used, then yes, of course, you should naturally see an increase. Now, on screen, you are seeing quite an unscientific method of basically playing the game with fraps running to show the FPS, and my CPU and GPU shown in Task Manager. Now, I understand this is not, scientifically solid. However, it's enough of a starting point to get a good idea. Now, I chose the Eldin Canyon, Eldin Mountain region because I know that performance in this area is very, very good, and I wanted to see what I could achieve. Now, my typical CPU usage with Cemu was before generally around 75 to 85%, around that region, and now it's kind of really being pushed to the limit, to the point where my PC was audible. So I'm not entirely sure how healthy that is to be pushed to a constant 100%. But regardless of that, I was absolutely blown away by the performance. Now, some people were saying that if you turn on GX2 Draw Done, they saw a significant dip in performance. I didn't personally notice that myself. Most of the gameplay that you're watching is with GX2 turned off, by the way, and I've also had to decrease the resolution pack that I was using from 1440 to 1080 with my GTX 1050 Ti, simply because I noticed that with the increased FPS that my CPU was providing, my GPU suddenly became the bottleneck. So be careful about that if you have a fairly good CPU but a moderate GPU. Now, this initial footage is just an early look at what's possible. Of course, you have no particular context of how does it compare to my performance of the past, so I'll throw in a very basic Kakariko Village comparison video so that you can look at it side by side. But you can guarantee with this feature being such a game changer, there are going to be many test videos available. In short, I've never seen my system provide this kind of performance in Breath of the Wild. Now, with this feature that utilizes more of your CPU, 60 FPS is going to be available for many more users, and not just people with the high-end CPUs. However, talking about the people with the high-end CPUs, I find this topic particularly interesting because if my i5 6400 can now get a fairly consistent 60 FPS, or let's say 30 to 60 FPS in general, then what can some of these higher end GPUs do? That's also very exciting. Ultimately, all you, the end user, need to know is that Cemu has a new feature which is utilizing more of your CPU if it was previously available. This translates directly into a performance increase. Make sure to subscribe because I will be covering this much more in depth. If you enjoyed this first look at Cemu 1.11.3, make sure to leave a thumbs up before you go and maybe check out some of my other content.